We are live.
Thank you. So let me go ahead and see. Good share.
Hello, hello, my friends. It's another day. It's another Sunday. It's another episode of My Voice, Your Voice. And today I am so excited to be talking with my friend Judith Fang. Judith, you are welcome to the platform.
Thank you. Thank you for having me,
So
Anita.
Judith is a banking expert. She has been in banking and finance and technology for 20 years. She is in mortgage banking, business operation, retirement investment, and technology in the last 12 years. She is also a founder of her own consulting firm, Fang Consulting, and her heart's work is financial literacy for women, youth empowerment, and all things Africa. Her very firm belief lies in ensuring the younger generation benefits from all the knowledge, technology, and mindset to build and sustain wealth and economic development for generations to come. Judith is also a leader. She leads the Pan African Women's Group in the Carolinas. She is the deputy state chair for proposed Hebrew Federal Credit Union, soon to be launched nationwide. Congratulations, my friends.
Mm.
Her passion also lies in everything travel and tourism, and she specializes in Africa, including showcasing the beauty of African landscape, its culinary heritage, cultural heritage, tours, ecotourism, planning, convention meetings, and exhibitions. She develops private and public partnerships with businesses in technology, environment, and agriculture. Judith, I can see that your bio is fully loaded. You are a multi-talented individual, and I'm so incredibly blessed to have you on this platform today. So, Judith, how are you doing?
I am doing well, actually. I'm doing well considering the atmosphere because it's been a revealing 3 to 4 months since the COVID started, and it's one of those things where you have to decide, are you going to come out of this COVID period the same person you went into it? Or are you just going to accept things as they are and wait for everyone else or life to direct you in whatever direction it pleases? So I have tried to make sure I can take tips from my own self, to make sure I can be my own inspiration and start doing some of the things that are important to me. Hence, I have started putting in the walks. I had stopped. I used to be very athletic, but for some reason, um, things kicked in and things fell to the side. So now I have actually been determined. I make it a point to make sure I get in the walks and the steps every day as often as I can, and just being more active, more positive, and being someone who's not going to be dampened by what's happening in and around us.
Thank you so much, my friend. It is said that many thriving businesses are created during a time of crisis. So I get from what you say that in a crisis situation, there is always something you can harvest from it. So
Yes,
we are trying to harvest the good from the crisis situation.
yes.
Thank you so much, my friend. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Well, we're both originally from Cameroon. I'm originally from Cameroon. Moved here over 26 plus years ago, 27 or so. And after doing a short stint in Europe, I'm a graduate from the Yaoundé University in Cameroon with a bilingual degree. However, when I went to Europe, I realized as much as I can speak the language, I needed some extra skills. So I tried to do business school in Europe. That didn't work out. I ended up coming to the United States years ago to continue my schooling. I did not plan on seeing myself in this country past 5 years because I
I
think
know.
in my heart, I'm an African. I'm a Cameroonian and I'm an African. I just really love the continent that much. Maybe it's because I did much of my schooling there. I don't know. Or maybe it's because my early years were fun over there. That could be it. But that's my home, and I really am. The continent is me. So over here, I also am one of those people who believes in when in Rome, do as the Romans do. So if I've transplanted myself from Africa and I find myself in this society, I have to make sure something works because the reason we leave our countries and come out here is because we need to make a living or life better for ourselves and our families. And so I decided to, initially, I wanted to go to law school. And so in trying to take my LSAT and the rest of it, I realized without regularizing myself over here, it was going to be impossible to do the law school. And that's what I was passionate about at the time. That dream since died. And then I found myself in the hotel industry where I worked and built myself up from ground up and led quite a few chains of hotels where I was managing those as hotel manager. And in one instance, I was actually the general manager. I loved what I did there because it made me interact with people, and you can see people from all walks of life. You interact with people at all levels. So you're able to see and decide for yourself what kind of a life you want. Because you see people who come in from the entertainment world, from the regular sports world, business world, and you talk, you interact with them. So as much as I thought I wanted to be a lawyer, I knew I wanted to be somebody who was influential, but I didn't know how or what that job description would be. And so I decided it was time to leave the hotel industry and move on to something else. What could I move on to? Still couldn't determine. And again, you got to know at the time I got into this country, that's when every relative, every friend, everybody you knew would tell you the only way you can survive in America is if you become a nurse. Well, if you know me, nurse, blood, hospital don't look anything like me. I'm not going to go anywhere where there's blood or where there's a patient who's suffering because I'm probably going to be worse off than the patient. So I can't help anyone who's sick. So that was definitely not an option for me. So I had to decide, pick a career, pick something. What are you going to do? So I dabbled in quite a few things. I went into the car rental industry. I went to insurance. I went into insurance where I worked for an auto insurance firm. I did work for a benefits consulting group. I worked for, as much as I said I wouldn't work anywhere near a hospital, I found myself working for an emergency room as a rep. So again, all of these were jobs and things that I tried to do to see what I was passionate about or what I liked so I could get myself or build a career out of it. I eventually ended up working for, at the time, the defunct Countrywide, which is now Bank of B of A. I started working for them as a operations specialist, just working in a particular area. And that's where, because I was so baffled by the computer systems that they were using, I had to end up figuring out a way to take that particular a printout of the entire system home with me so I could study it and figure out what this whole thing was about. And that's how come I got into the banking field, technology, and understood a lot more about the mortgage, the regular banking itself, and all things financial. That was my entry into it. I since became the go-to person for the application or the tool that we were using. And over time, I learned a little bit more about everything else and decided at one point it was time for me to go back to school and study and have my MBA. So that's me and my career in a nutshell. But
Okay,
along
so
the, go ahead.
if I may come in, when you have a very very interesting career background, and when you say it the way you say it, our viewers would think that it was just all rosy. Judy was just moving from one stage to the other.
Yeah.
So I'd like you to tell us a little bit about your journey, personal journey, and the lessons, the things that you did, the mistakes that you did, how you learned from them, and how you moved on.
So on the flip side, which is the personal side of the story, my it was interesting because when I got here, well, when I was in Europe, Europe is a little, it's not a place I would want to stay in because I was in Paris. So I didn't want to stay out there. That's not a place. I love Paris for fun stuff, but I don't think I can stay there for a living. But anyway, when I got to this country, I moved in here in the smack dab in the middle of winter when the snow in Boston was, I don't know how many feet of those snow those people in Boston can tolerate, but that thing was up to my knee, and I don't know why anybody would want to live in a place that's cold. But that's where my auntie was, so I spent the first 5 days over with her. I eventually moved to Kansas, which is where I had to come to in the United States. My younger sister is actually still there, so when I got to Kansas, it was quite interesting because I would raise some issues and some concerns, not because they were that much of an issue, but I can guarantee you 3/4 of everyone who's been to America has faced some semblance or some variance of what I face. I got to this country with $1,000 in my pocket. And that $1,000, I don't know, my mom must have borrowed it or whatever it is to give me after having bought my ticket and done all the stuff, and my parents struggling to put me through school. So I walked into that house in Kansas, and the first thing I had to do after I had slept or they'd given me a place to sleep at night, I woke up in the morning trying to figure out what my next life would be like in this new country. I was asked to pay rents for 2 months. That's the rents totaled up to $760 off the $1,000 that I brought with me. And they also said you need to take driving license, your driving lessons, which I signed up for $150. So I'm now down um, a little less than $100. I'm not very good with math, you can tell. So, and then the next thing I had to do was pay a certain bill or whatever it is. And I was left in that house with my younger sister. I was left in that house with my younger sister, and a person moved out, and that was our home. I didn't know what to do. Thankfully, I had been helped. I'd actually gone and filed for my social security and done all the small legalities that would allow me to do some work or do stuff around the city. So I eventually applied for a job where I worked in a disabled home as a caretaker or as a teacher or something. Did that for 2 months. And the interesting part of the story, the story gets interesting because we had friends, we had family, we knew back home, and we had this one friend or relative who had said, oh, you have to get married to, well, you get hooked up or you get connected with someone. So he had shared I started talking to this one guy that I agreed to get married to, and that's because I'd never seen him, and I agreed to get married to him and based on recommendation. And so when he offered that I move over to Los Angeles, I did accept. I think that was about 3 weeks. That was about a month in to when I was in Kansas. So we agreed that I was going to move to Los Angeles, and we talked out everything. We're going to get married, we're going to have children, and I was going to go to school and I was going to work and do all the great things I came here for. Anyway, me having been a person with an independent mind of my own, I realized this is not me. Since when do I accept to marry somebody I've never seen? I'm not saying it doesn't work. Recommendations are always a good thing. But I had not yet figured out what I wanted to do in life. So getting married and settling down with someone I didn't even know was becoming absolutely not an option for me. So 2 weeks in, I called him up and I said, would you mind? I have a proposal for you. Would you mind that I move into Los Angeles with you if I can stay with you for 6 months and then I can work or do something or figure out what I'm all about? And when that time comes, I would, if during the 6 months we fall in love or something happens or we connect, then I'll stay. But if we don't connect, because I know me, I'm going to move out after 6 months. So, needless to say, when I got to LA, since we hadn't seen each other ever,
Did he accept? Did he
of
accept?
yes, he did. Maybe a little reluctantly at the
Okay.
time, but he did. He accepted, and I thought we were speaking like two sane people, so he did accept. And then when I got to Los Angeles, maybe just from seeing me and the person I was and the nice person, well, he's a nice, excellent guy, nice guy, and I'm a nice person. I thought at the time we talked, we connected, we did stuff, but it wasn't. My mind was not in a relationship mode. I was in a mode for self discovery. What am I going to do? Who am I? I am not the lawyer or that I wanted to be initially. So, who am I going to become? His first words to me were, I asked him initially, I said, can you please, one of the days, I think I was with him for a total of 4 days in his house. So I asked him one of the first few days, can you bring me the LA Times so I can look through the classified and find some work to do, at least for my next 6 months? And he said, I don't see you working because you have no qualifications, no skills for this country. So the only thing you can do will be to go to nursing school. And it's either you go to nursing school or any other job that you have will pay you $4.25. So I said, well, but that's not bad. $4.25, it's minimum wage, that's for sure. But I can start there and find out what other stuff to do. He said no. And his words to me were, no wife of mine or something of the sort is going to do a $4.25 job. So, I mean, I understand where he was coming from because I mean, for those who are not familiar with America, it can be a very, very tough place for the black person to settle in, to work, to survive. You have to overcome so many things. So it took him a little while to get through to his own nursing degree. He had done well for himself. He was now a nursing, I think he had at the time he just had his master's in nursing. So he was doing well for himself. So in looking at it from his perspective, I'm this fresh person who just got into the country. There's no way he would want me to do anything else. He can only tell me what he knows, right? And right now what he knew was nursing. And he couldn't understand for the life of him why I would reject the whole nursing concept. So I'm like, I'm not doing that. I can't, that's not me. There's nothing about me that's even medical or science inclined besides me going to the hospital for treatment. And so I realized pretty early on that it might not work out. So he told me at one time, he said, well, we have to be realistic. He cares about me. And I said, I do care about you too, but I don't think we have the same goals. So when he comes back home from work, this is after I had finished. I cooked some food. I did what the wives do in Cameroon. I cleaned up, cleaned the house. I made sure every place was nice and tidy. Cooked some food, left it on the stove, and called up a cousin and told him, when you get back home, the key to your house will be right underneath the door. I do remember him having told me at one time that if you don't do what I'm asking you to do, you won't succeed and it'll be tough for you to find a place of your own. And I promised him and I said, don't worry, I'll be in my own place in 6 months and I'll invite you. Needless to say, fast forward 6 months down the line, my younger sister actually happened to have a birthday. So I had brought her over at the time, and we were all in California. So I invited him to come over for her birthday. And when he walked into the house, he said, I'll believe you next time you tell me something. Because not only had I had I had gotten a job at the first hotel, I'd moved into my own apartment, and then I'd gotten my sister to come and live with me. So even though we had no furniture, nothing, it was good. But in that time that I left his house to go stay with my family, my other family, you go through things in life and things like that. You struggle. There's a lot of stress in this country. I was living in a cousin's house where she was the only one who was working and had six grown people staying with her. And at the time, she was making something roughly around $27,000 a year, taking care of six grown adults, three of whom had just left the Yaoundé University, one of whom was my brother, and then my sister who had also come. So that was a lot of stress for her. So things didn't work out that way, out of stress levels. So had to move out of her place again in the middle of the night at one point, and then went over to a stranger's house, somebody I met while I was trying to sign up for computer learning classes. Had no money for that, nothing for it, just going off of the bare fact that we were both born on the same days. So that was me exposing myself to a stranger, someone I didn't know from anywhere, and anything could have happened to me. But when you're in a mind where things are tight for you, you don't think, you don't see the dangers, you don't see all the troubles that are there. All you see is, I got to make it out of here, I have to do something. And the neighborhood in which we were staying in Los Angeles, or in the LA area, was not the greatest. Anyone who's familiar with LA back in the day, especially after the Rodney King riots and everything else, that was we were living on 104th Street in Inglewood. Not a
Mm.
good place to be in at that time. Not a good place. But we'll leave that for another day. But so it wasn't exactly a smooth journey from getting into this country in the smack dab in the middle of winter to getting to where I am today. It's been one challenge after another challenge after another challenge, but you have to make sure you focus and put your mind to the fact that no condition is permanent. If you just work through this, you get by. And every time you see a glimpse of hope, take it, run with it, do what you have to do with it.
So, if you are to advise somebody who is just moving, let's say from Africa
Mhm.
to the United States, what are some of the things you would tell that person?
So there's a few things. Again, it would depend on the person. It would depend on the person. It would depend on their upbringing, just the kind of people they've been around. Depending on what they want to do, depending on what they want to do, they have to make sure that they know what they are aiming for in their lives. If you don't know what you want to become, you will be influenced by literally anyone and anything. If I didn't know that I am not a nursing person, it's very likely I could have made it in a nursing field if I put my mind to it. However, when you're not passionate about something, it's also going to affect you and the way you look at it. So I would advise them, why are they coming to America? What is the reason they're coming here from? Because people immigrate for different reasons. I was immigrating because I did not have the opportunity to be the person I wanted to be back home. The corruption back in our country, I mean, we leave for a slew of different reasons. The corruption and the fact that I didn't have enough money to bribe my way into a particular higher institution was the reason I was here. However, for other people, it might not be the same reason. It might be they want to do a business or just work and make some money for their family. I wanted to be in a situation where I could make myself better and make some changes, influence, and do some things that were important to me. My country at the time was not providing me that option. So I would tell them to, first of all, solidify what it is that's their goal in life, first of all, why they're immigrating. That way, when they come over here, they seek advice from people who are doing similar things to what they want to do, and then they get the best advice for them. Someone who is in the nursing field or medical field may want to be a doctor. Maybe the path for that person might be, you need to go to a community college, take some prerequisites first, take some nursing courses, and then you move on to being the doctor. But someone who's been on the path that you're searching can advise you. For those who don't know what they want to do and they're just coming here for coming sake, they'll have to quickly figure out what they like to do and what they're good at, and then look for something in that space. Bear in mind that you're coming into a nation that has its own ills, its own struggles, its own um, things that we're still struggling through. So if you're coming in here with an accent, the first thing you might be surprised at is people start referring to you as someone with an accent. You know, again, you have to just be proud and know what your identity is so that the pursuit of what you're looking for is not as difficult. And be firm. know what your values are, know what you can do, and know that be prepared to work and sometimes do things you probably didn't do in Cameroon, like be a cleaner. But if being a cleaner is what's going to get you the next step into figuring out how you need to get to pay your school fees, so be it. But all of those things are temporary once you have your goals and mindset on what it is you want to do.
Yes, I am so glad that you brought up this idea because that is a dilemma that everybody goes through when you immigrate into this country for the first time. You get to know people who define who you are and who
Hmm.
tell you what you can do and what you cannot do, who
Hmm.
tell you where you can be successful and where you cannot be successful. And
Yes,
so, one of the things that, like Simon Sinek talks in his book, Defining Your Why, you must always know your why in life because your why in life determines the path that you will follow.
that's
If you
correct.
don't know your why, then you will let other people run your life for you. I have
Absolutely.
one of my mentors who says, nobody's going to die your death. So why allow them live your life for you?
Yes.
So listening to you, I noticed that it took you quite some time dabbling in different fields
Mhm.
until you finally found your path. Can I say, have you finally found your path? And
No.
if so, what is that path? Or are you still in the process?
So I'm still in the process of defining my path. I may know what my purpose is, I may know what my goal in life is, but I don't think that I have figured out or defined the path. And again, that's the beauty of the life we live in right now. There's so much opportunity to do anything you want to do. The first ability that I have is I've been able to get what I would consider the basic education that I require to do much of what I am trying to do. As far as going to school, I got up to my MBA level. So that is that is what our traditional flow of education will give you. Now, you have others who would want to pursue education all the way up to a PhD. But for me, I don't know if I'll ever do a PhD. I don't know, but I know for a fact that if a PhD is in my line, it's not what's impacting my life. It's not what I'm missing today in order to do the things I want to do. Now, my path has mostly been, as you can tell, the things that I'm most passionate about are Africa. I'm looking at the way the world is today. I'm going with what I think is important to me. I really want the continent of Africa to be showcased. And when I say continent, I actually mean continent, the people of Africa, descendants of Africa, everybody who's in one way or another related to Africa. I think that we've been deprived, or not deprived by anybody. I think we as Africans have not yet figured out how strong and how much of a force and a power we are. So my first thing is to ensure that we are providing a level playing field for most Africans and most people who are of African descent in the world today. Travel, which is one of my big things, I hope to be such an influence in the travel space, travel and tourism space for Africa, whereby I can condition, influence, direct, or actually negotiate terms that the African continent would have when it comes to those areas. Simply because I think that as an African continent, we've not been showcased enough. I can very much sit here and tell you that I'm a Cameroonian, but Cameroon sits inside a continent that is so rich. And you can tell from you being a Cameroonian, you know we have the landscape, the diversity, everything that Africa entails.
Africa in miniature.
Exactly. But the reason I have that passion is not necessarily because that's one of the things that I was passionate about when I got here. I got passionate about that because it's one of the challenges I faced when I got here. So I realized, why am I being looked at differently? I'm no different than the next person. But there were some key issues and key aspects in my background, in my origins, that enable people to think that we are not up to par. And that is one of the things that I started realizing much sooner or much earlier, that I really have to strive to change. I want to make sure that I'm contributing to what we as Africans, as Cameroonians, as Blacks, as women, as youth, that we have a lot to offer. At the same time, I want to make sure that everything I do is fun. So I'm picking trades and careers and activities that are fun to me and things that I'm passionate about, such as travel. I just came off a live video with my nephew, and I don't know if you watched it. You were in church, I think. But I just did a live video with my nephew, who is one of the biggest influencers of African entertainment and culture, music. He's a brand manager for WizKid News, and he's just amazing. This amazing young man. So we have so many Africans, young and old, doing very, very good things. But we need to make sure that we can collaborate and network with each other so we can do greater things and have a legacy to give back to our people so they don't have to struggle as much as we did. Your volume is off. Are you on mute? I can't hear you. No, I don't. I think there's still something wrong. Can you hear me though? Okay.
So one of the things that you said, which struck me, was showcasing Africa. And you are quite right about what you are saying, because the way people look at us is because of what they have been told about Africa.
Mhm.
And what they have been told about Africa most often is not what is actually the truth. I'll
Right.
give you an example. When I started working here, one of my colleagues asked me if there were monkeys moving on the streets. You won't
You
believe.
asked that.
So I just looked at her and I asked her, are there monkeys moving on the street close to the office? She said, no. I said, why? I said, because it's developed. I said, yes, Africa is developed. You do have monkeys, but they're in the forest. So we also have streets and beautiful towns like you have. So she said, Rene, don't be angry with me. That is what we have been told. I said, no, I'm not angry with you. I'm just educating you. And so when I see people like you who are trying to showcase the continent of Africa, I think that is one of the things all of us should do. That is why I am doing this show. That's why I'm bringing on women, African women, because like you and I were talking the other day, we were saying that there are a lot of us who are in our various corners doing a lot, but people don't know us because nobody's ready to showcase us. So we don't have to wait for people to showcase us. We have to do it ourselves. And I know you are doing a very, very good program with the youth. I know people will listen to this. You're doing some good work with youth in Africa. Can
Mhm.
you tell us, just in brief, what are your intentions? What are
So,
you, and the kind of people you are working with and your intentions?
let me. So in There's a term that I am very familiar with, and I heard it from one of my. There's a podcaster who does a show called The Million in You. He has a statement that he says that there's three types of entrepreneurs, right? And there's the creator, there's the mover, and there's the connector. That struck me quite a bit because when you're trying to do something, people usually try to fit you in a box here or there. So it felt good to hear him explain, um, actually define entrepreneurs as creators, connectors, and movers. Some people do own all qualities in all three, or do businesses that actually engage in all three aspects. Others are specific in maybe one or two, and others are literally smack dab doing only one. I noticed that even if I can't define what the other things are as far as creating something, as far as moving something, I definitely fit in the category that calls myself I'm an entrepreneurial connector. So my goal is to connect influencers, movers, doers, ideas, and the people who actually make it happen. We want to make sure that we're working in a cohesive manner that's moving towards the goal of raising Africa to the level it needs to be at. So my goal for Africa in doing all of this stuff, or what I've been doing, part of my as a travel agent, I'm actually able to do this as a travel agent. I am actually, it's slow now, but one of my packages that I do as a travel advisor and consultant is getting youths, connecting the African youth that are here in the United States with Africa in general. So we may pick a country here or there and we go visit. So I do create packages for youth, church groups, people who are interested in visiting the continent to go back home, familiarize themselves, get to know the continent. And there's many people who've actually gone from here and settled in other countries aside from their own countries, African countries, because they love it and they feel at home once they get there. So one of the things I am also doing is connecting with some. I have a friend of mine who's one of the most influential people. She just left Ghana. She used to be the CEO of Junior Achievement for Africa. So I work with and collaborate with people who run programs for youth and for women to ensure that I can provide them with the areas that I'm good at, such as travel, such as tours in those areas that they're interested in. So my goal is to ensure that while I'm scaling up in exposing Africa's tourism and culture environment, I am working and collaborating with other influencers like you who are bringing up stories of people who are interested in doing work for Africa or other areas, working with people who actually have products and services that they would do for the continent, make sure we collaborate and we can actually work together to make facilitate some of the things the businesses that we're all doing. So there's a lot of opportunity for almost anyone who's interested in working on African initiatives. We just need to make sure we get on it as opposed to procrastinating.
So when you were telling your story and some of the challenges that you have gone through as an African in the United States, you talked about our accent. And I just laughed because here in the United States, sometimes people think that your accent is an insult. But I don't let them understand that my accent defines me because I'm so proud to be an African.
Mhm.
And if you leave the United States and go back to Cameroon, you are going to have an accent. And so what I say is I don't let that define me. That's the way I was brought up. There are a lot of things that influence our accent from Africa. We have
Mhm.
other patois which
Mhm.
we grow up speaking.
Mhm.
And so for me, an accent is, I spoke with one of my guests and she said, when somebody says you have an accent, you say, oh, really? I thought you were the one who had an
Yes.
accent. So as working in the corporate world, you and I, we've had the opportunity to work in the corporate world. What are some of the challenges that you've had to grapple through? I know there are a lot. I know, I can see you shaking your head. Girl, it's not easy. But what are some of the things that we as African women have had to go through?
First of all, that aggressive black woman syndrome, we need to be able to look past that. Angry black woman, oh, you don't have enough qualifications. You have to do more than the next person. Oh, this person has been here for so long. They know you don't have the right qualifications. It's just a lot of things that we can't let get to us. You know what it is you're hoping to achieve. So you want to make sure that you try to get past certain things. Or you're sitting there, you know that you're probably not being paid as much as the next person who's not of your skin color or not of your accent and the person, and then you know that you're not getting paid anywhere close to what the person, because you're not the right gender. Just everything wrong with working in the black in as a black person, black woman, African woman with an accent in the corporate world. Initially, when I started work at one of my companies, every time I spoke, because I am one of those people, I'm extremely proud of my identity, and my accent will come out very strongly in certain areas. So when I say those things, or when I, not unfortunately, fortunately, unfortunately, whichever way you want to look at it, when you speak different languages and you've been exposed to different areas where you go to different places, you have a tendency to grab a couple of slangs from here, accent here, whatever it is, and sometimes you find yourself like this very confused person with no exact accent. So it's so confusing. You don't know if it's a half French accent, Cameroon accent, African accent, South African, depending on whatever languages you speak, right? Or which
Yes.
are stronger influence in your life. So when you speak and someone tells you, can you say that again? I didn't hear what you said.
Oh, that is so annoying, my friend.
it, you know, every once in a while you have to get a hold of yourself, because you are asking yourself, you didn't hear what I said, but this other person from Asia, not picking a particular country, I literally didn't hear anything they said. You heard all of that and you can't hear me. You have to learn to accept me for who I am, and not, so it's either you're not following the conversation we're having, or you want to fight my accent and the way I speak. I can't change who I am. I'm who I am. So if there's something you don't understand, please ask, and ask politely. I will explain again, but the accent won't change. It's going to be the same accent. So you're going to have to figure out a way to get over it. But the challenge there is you and I, as an African woman or black woman with that accent, maintaining your cool, your professionalism, and just being the person stepping above it, knowing fully well that some of those things are intentional while others are not. But
Yes.
you know what your goal is, so you have to stay above that and achieve what it is you plan to achieve.
Yes. I was just talking to my church, the session of my church, because something came up concerning the Black Lives Matter and how the
Yes,
church could
yes.
assist. So I was telling them, if I can listen to you and understand what you are saying, then you can also listen to me and understand what I'm saying. Because I make the effort.
Mhm.
The way you speak, that's not the way my African people speak. So if I come here and I'm able to listen and get what you are saying, you should be able to listen to me and get what I am saying. That just comes back to what you are saying. People don't listen because maybe they already have this preconceived idea that you really don't have much to offer. So that is why sometimes you can say something and somebody will ask you to repeat yourself 3, 4 times. But meanwhile, you are in a group and every other person has understood what you are saying.
Mhm.
So we are here to say, if you find yourself in this kind of situation, you are not alone. All of us. So one of the things which I've seen people do here, they are trying to like adopt the accent of the people here. Then sometimes they overdo it and it sounds ridiculous. So I said, when I'm in the office and I say I need some water, everybody is like, water? I'm like, water. I need water. I was colonized by the British, and that's how I was trained to pronounce it from the spelling. And if I
Mhm.
say water, then you know it's water. I don't care how you call it, but that's what I call it.
Mhm.
So, but I find a lot of people who come here and they are like, once you start changing your accent, you can never be an original. Stick with
Well,
what you have, because I know there are some certain things that you need to work on. but
Mm-hmm.
it is not a must. There are some certain milieus where you have to be a bit understanding and try to express yourself in a manner in which people will actually understand what you are saying. But
Right.
it is not compulsory. It's not for everyone.
Yes.
And I know that you have had a lot of challenges, but I always like to ask my guests,
Mm-hmm.
what is the most challenging thing you have had to face in your life, even in your personal life, and how did you overcome this?
I don't know if I have a most challenging. I've had some pretty tough ones, and again, they've been in my personal, they've been in my professional, but I would say I think the one I want to focus on the most is finances. And the reason why I bring up finances is because I have made some colossal mistakes in my finances in this country that are totally, totally uncalled for. And that were, despite being educated, despite being an MBA person, despite being knowledgeable, or I would say in my life, I think I was raised in a family where my father, strangely enough, my father was a controller for his entire life. Accounting was his thing. He was like one of the biggest controllers I know for all of West Africa, for one of the big institutions out there. However, we don't teach our kids, we are not taught about money. And no matter how hardworking you can be, I can tell you proudly that I'm a queen of starting over. But I'm not a queen of starting over because it's a choice thing. I'm a queen of starting over because I have failed many times in the way I've handled my finances. And I've had to restart, reset all those things because not only are not we not being taught, but we also are pretty deaf to hearing some of the advice or some of the things that are crucial. So I would plead with anyone that everything we do in life, although it's not a matter of money or we need to seek money, money and finances are the number one cause of literally every issue that you see on this planet.
You are very right.
So we might claim that it's not important. We might claim that money doesn't make you happy. We might claim all these things. Go and tell the person who has a lot of money how he's not happy. And he'll look at you and say, "Show me your first million and I'll tell you what unhappiness looks like." You see what I'm saying? So if you see people who are stressing, a lot of the times they're stressing because there's money involved. If you see people who don't have health, it's because sometimes they need some money for health things. You go to the grocery store. What are the most expensive things to purchase? Healthy foods. You go out the door, vegetables are hidden there on the corner, while all the things that are totally bad for you are sitting up front. We fall prey to those things because we come from backgrounds that don't teach us about money. We have parents that do businesses. My mom and my aunties, when we were growing up, I do remember my mom and aunties selling by the roadside. We sold puff puff. We sold those things. Yes, she grew on to be a teacher and do other entrepreneurial business things. However, my mom is a great example of an entrepreneurial woman. But my mom and I never sat down to talk about money. I don't remember any time my parents sat with me to talk about money, no fault of theirs, because that's not the kind of education they're used to telling other people. The closest you get to people teaching you about money, finances, and wealth is when you see a mother in the village or even in the cities teach the kid how to run the business that the parent was running, and then they teach them the reins and tell them to take up the reins when they're no longer there. Then that family member now continues with that business line and they can pass it generation onto generation onto generation. That is how you build wealth. We don't do that. And some of the struggles I had in my life and challenges were because I didn't have money, or because I didn't know the first thing about money or finances or making the big decisions that I had to make. I was moving from Kansas to Los Angeles to go get married to someone because I needed a place to stay for 6 months. If I had made better decisions, or if I knew a little bit more, I may have tweaked something in my life. I may have tweaked whether I needed to go to school or not, or do a business. I may have tweaked something. And again, we need to learn when to make compromises, when to change the direction of our lives, when to understand the things that are impacting us. Money is not the key and only factor here, but money is a huge influencer in some of the challenges that we face in our lives.
Yes, Judy, thank you so much. And when I listen to you, I just laugh because I am also a finance person by profession, and I do a lot of financial counseling and coaching. And sometimes when you talk to people, they look at you as if you are just crazy. But
Mhm.
I have had to train my children on financial management. I tell even my youngest, if you have money, try to save at least 10% of your income. When I just moved to the state, I had my daughter who is here. She was always like, Mom, I don't have money. And I put her down. I said, you know what? You need to set at least 6 months of your living expense tucked somewhere in an account that you will not touch, called an emergency fund.
How easy
And
is that for
I
many of us?
it's easy if you first of all accept the challenge and decide to do it. It's $1 at a time.
Mhm.
And how do you get your living expenses? You calculate, you actually sit down and write out everything you spend on. If it is like $3,000, including your rent, I mean, everything, you multiply it by 6 and
Create
you
a budget.
set a goal.
Hmm.
You don't have to raise that money in 2, 3 years, no.
Hmm.
But like they say, the journey of 1,000 miles begins with a step. And let me tell you, there is nothing that gives you freedom like having something set aside, like knowing that I do have a $1,000 or $2,000 stuck somewhere that in case of an emergency, I can fall back on before I start looking to get money from people.
Right.
Because I am also a person of faith. And the book of Proverbs says, debts are the things that bring untold
Yes.
masters in your
Yes.
life. And
Yes.
you and I know that in this America, it's a lifestyle of debts.
Hmm.
Easy access to credit cards.
Yes.
What are you using your credit cards for? There was a time I was conversing with one of my little friends, and she was so excited. Oh, auntie, they just gave me a new credit card. And she was browsing the net to look for the dresses and shoes. I said, that is not the use for a credit card. You
Right.
don't use credit card to buy those things. Credit cards are meant for your needs when you cannot afford them.
Hmm.
But because here we have a different notion about credit card, it's easy to spend, you need to build your credit. People don't understand. They just keep swapping the credit card, and
Hmm.
you see somebody having 50, 60,000 in debts
That's
and
yes.
still swapping and trying
Yes.
to meet up. So the one thing which I will add about money is you should be able to distinguish between your needs and your wants.
Correct.
The needs are the things that you need them to survive, to live. Your wants are just something you wish and you want for. Do you really need it? Each time you want to buy something, ask yourself, do I need this? Like I said, you can decide. Here, some companies pay weekly, some companies pay bi-weekly. You can say, okay, every month I'll put aside $100 in my emergency fund. If you do that in 365 weeks, my friend, how much is that? It
Well,
just
that's
takes discipline in whatever profession. Even if you're an Uber driver, I can't tell you the number of times I have had to give financial lectures when I'm in an Uber. And the people say, oh wow, you make it look so simple. I say, yeah, it's
yes.
so simple. It's so
Yes.
simple. I say, as you do your Uber every day, just do a direct deposit into your savings account at the end
Mhm.
of every week, even if it is just a $50, my friend.
Right.
In 10 weeks, you have $500. Just having $500 to your name, nothing attached to it, it just starts giving you a kind of freedom. And then there is one thing about savings. It is very addictive. When you start it
Yes.
and you start seeing your account building up, you want it to
Yes.
build up more.
That is true.
So all I tell people is when you calculate this figure, don't let it scare you. This figure is just a guide. It is just to inform you how much you need. And why do we say at least 6 months? Because sometimes you can lose your job and it takes you at least this time to be able to look for another job. Right. So you look for another job from a point of abundance. Mm-hmm. When you find yourself, like you said, you had to move into an unknown house with somebody you have never met just because you were looking for accommodation. Correct. If you had money for accommodation, you wouldn't have taken this decision. Fortunately for you, you are the kind of strong-willed person that you are. You could easily see the harm on your way, and you quickly moved out. But you and I know that everybody is not like that. There are people who have been stuck in those kinds of relationships
for a long time,
for all their lives, because they went in without knowing, and there is no way they can come out. So like you said, there is a saying, money takes the value of the holder.
Exactly.
It takes the value of the holder. If you have money and you have good values, the money will be good. Yes. If you have money and you have bad values, the money, of course, you use it for bad.
Correct.
So money is not everything, but money is an enabler.
Exactly.
You and I will not sit here talking if we could not afford maybe a laptop, afford
internet
to pay
connection.
For Zoom, internet connections. You will not be. So it is an enabler. Whether you like it or not, it is an enabler.
Correct.
And how you manage, I always tell people, it is not how much you earn that matters. It is how well you manage what you earn.
That's true. That's true.
So for that, I can tell you, my family knows me. If I send money, they start keeping a record of account. My daughter is watching. She can type that because they know that I'm going to come back to say, can you give me a list of what you spent the money for?
Correct.
I have made them to understand that it is not because I distrust them. No, I am instilling in them the spirit of accountability.
Correct. Yes.
If you spend money and you cannot be accountable for, you will never have money.
Yes.
Because like you said, one of the things that can enable you to be able to save for this emergency fund is if you can be able to sit down and actually analyze and write down the things that you spend your money on. Mm-hmm. You will see the holes that your money goes to, and you'll be able to block those holes.
Yes.
I'll give an example. We call it the latte principle. Latte is this cup of Starbucks coffee, which we buy every day. There are some people who cannot go for a day without that cup of latte. Some people even take 2 or 3 cups. Let's say it's just $5. $5 times 30 days. How much is that? Do you really need? Until you sit down and do the calculation and you know that 5 times 30, that's $150 just for coffee. What is it doing to you? Then look, take somebody who takes the cup of coffee 3 times a day. That's 15. When you multiply, how much? You
bring up a good point.
So what we are saying is money is how you take time to manage it. It is not how much you earn. If you cannot manage $1,000, my friend, even if you have $100,000, you will not be able to manage it. Distinguish if there is anything you are going to take from this. What credit? I don't see how somebody can go and organize a wedding on credit. No. Right. If you cannot fund your wedding with cash, wait until you are able to fund it. Mm-hmm. There's some certain things that you cannot use credit to do with because they are not needs. A credit card is meant for your needs. And the way I advise my clients to use their credit card If you want to use a credit card because you say you want to build your credit, make sure once you are swapping your credit card, the money is in your savings account or your checking account, so that at the end of the month, once your bill comes, you clear all the amount so you can avoid interest. It is doable. Judith and myself, I'm an accountant by profession. I'm a financial coach. If you love what you are hearing and you want to talk to us on a personal level, contact us. We can do a finance health check. I
Yes.
call my first meeting a finance health check. I'm available to give you a finance health check. Let's look at your finance, your sources of finance, and your uses of finance.
Mm-hmm.
And then let's see how implementing a budget. I tell my children, even while I was back in Cameroon, I never went for my salary without a list of what I am supposed to do.
Right.
When you plan and you actually write it down, then you know the top priority on your list. And when you have that money, you make sure that you take care of those top priorities. The rest can come in any order. And
Right.
one of your topest priority is savings.
Yeah.
Until you start saving, then and only then would you know. And savings entails a lot of sacrifice. There are some
Right.
things you are going to go without because you want to save, but they are not going to kill you, my friend. They are just needs. So when you brought up this topic, it's also a topic that's so close to my heart. I'm so
Yes.
passionate about it because I see the way people spend their time trying to earn money.
Mm-hmm.
When you spend your time earning money, you have to learn how to manage the money.
That's
If
right.
you cannot learn how to manage the money by yourself, that is why you have financial coach and experts like us. We are here to help you manage your money. What do you do with money that you are not expecting? For example, your tax returns. What do you do with? I, as a financial coach, I'll tell you, plow it into your emergency fund because you were not expecting that money. But you know what happens when we get that money, right? We think of the
Yes.
next new car,
Oh, the mall.
good. And you just spend it because it's like, this is free money. But build an emergency fund. I call it in our Cameroonian context, a rainy day fund.
Mm-hmm.
The day that the rain will be falling, you can run to that place. So Judith and I are also travel advisors.
Right.
We do a lot of things because we believe that financial freedom can be gotten if you have multiple sources of income. It's not just enough to sit and say, you know, our mentality, my friend. We grew up in Cameroon knowing that you go to school, come out from the university, and you
And get
get a
a
job with
job.
the government.
Government. Mm-hmm.
So it is only now that some of us are trying to step up into this entrepreneurial sector.
Yes.
So what can you tell people, women who are listening to us, who are maybe back home, who want to do something like we are doing, get into this entrepreneurial sector and see how they can increase their sources of income?
Okay. So, first of all, if they're listening to this show, you've come to a show that would let you know you are not the only one. We have all been through it, we're still going through it, and we will continue to thrive until when we are comfortable. Until the day you leave this earth, you have every opportunity to keep being the best that you can be. So, for that, find out what you're good at, what your environment is, what your market area is, where you are. What need do they have around the area where you are? What are people lacking? Let's say if you're around if you know how to sew, or even if you're trying to learn on what trade to do, and you realize there's a school, a primary school next to you. Cameroon, most schools require uniform. I like to use the uniform example because it's the easiest thing that anyone can resolve. Cameroon being what it is, you need at least 2 to 3 pairs of uniforms every week. You wear it, even if you want to wear it more than once or twice. I mean, you sweat so much, and then you will need to change it or wash it or do something. However, if you know how to sew, or you have a store you want to be willing to sell the soap, the omo, all I'm saying is find out the need for your area. If they need people to sew those uniforms, you grab the contract, go to the school, stand, create your own whatever you would call. I know business cards may be only specific to certain people calling, doing business in offices or whatever it is, cleaning. Create your own brand for a type of business card. Write it on a piece of paper, whatever it is. Go post it at the school. Say anyone who wants to sew uniforms, if you want to alter your uniforms, you want to do anything, I am available. I will do it 24/7. If you know that children go to school, they leave too early in the morning and they do whatever. I mean, I'm very familiar with our country. Can you package small breakfast, lunch things that you can go and provide at the school or sell in
That's a
neat
wonderful
ways that they
idea.
just need to do it? There's so many ideas that so many of us can do. Don't do only one thing. You have so many hours in the day. Why would you sit down and not do anything for the hours you have left? Think of something. Do it. If you're doing it, trust me, somebody needs what you're doing. Put yourself out there, share the information. Nowadays, with COVID, I don't care what business you're in, you have to go online. Sell yourself. Somebody might be living right next to you and you can't even go, or you don't even know that they sew. But if they go online and they say, oh, I sew, call me at this number, and you find out, oh my God, that's my next door neighbor. How would you have known if you didn't go online? Put yourself out there, share the things you do. If one person is able to benefit from what you're doing, that person can tell somebody else who needs it, and then you can get more business, all of that stuff. Like I said, you're not alone. We're all still, look, we're all from the same culture. We're all learning. All money matters. We're all learning. And we just want to be better so we can teach our kids. Don't wait till tomorrow to teach your kids. Start today, letting them learn the trade that you're doing. Teach them. They may not be the ones who want to follow the traditional educational flow. They may not all want to be those doctors and engineers that we are being asked to be in Africa. They may be just the person who opens the corner side bar. Teach them how to take it over. Teach them how to run it. I don't encourage alcohol drinking anyway, but if that's what's going to make you money, if they're making it and you can sell it, do it. But teach your child, let them know what to do after you're not there so they can continue the business. There's so much we can talk about.
I want to use this opportunity to acknowledge those who have been online. I want to acknowledge Francisca Epale. She's watching from Canada. Thank you, my sister, for tuning in. She too is a Cameroonian based in Canada. Also, I see Tomeka Gilma is watching. Thank you, Tomeka. I see my reverend daughter, Julie Fossa, is watching. Thank you, baby. My daughter Immaculate is watching. Wherever, thank you, my Francoise in doing. Thank you. Afani Asang is watching. Please help us share this video. Our intention is to help people listen to us and learn even one thing. When you were talking about sewing, you saw me laughing. Let me tell you one thing, my friend. That is what sustained me in America for the first 9 months when I was still
There
hoping
you go.
to have my papers. Everybody in my apartment building knew me as a teller. Do you know the teller in that apartment?
Yeah.
Nobody knew I had ever gone to school because that is what I did. Just like you, I'm that kind of person who is interested in doing. I went into sewing because I didn't want to be taking my children's clothes to a tailor to adjust for me. I wanted to do it. I used to sew my children's uniform. So when I came here, I said, oh, I did this sewing sometime. I could revive these skills. And I got myself a table machine. That is what sustained me. That is what enabled me to
Mm-hmm.
get into my apartment 6 months after I got into the US. And I've been telling my children back home, I say, you know what? If you intend coming here, go do a trade. I have
Yes.
experienced what it is. And people always think that because you're an accountant, you cannot sew. No. Some of the things, like my friend said, are your passion. Then your passion start earning money. Zig Ziglar will
Yes.
say, do the things that you can do for
Love.
people for free, that
Mm-hmm.
they will start paying you to do it. That's where I started. I just started helping people. Then people started saying, but why do you have to do it for free? And the $20 here, a $50 here, And that is how, right now, as I'm talking to you, I have a whole ton of African prints waiting for me to sew. I don't even have time. And I'll tell them, when you give your dress to me now, give me 2 weeks.
Yeah.
But I'm an accountant, for crying out loud. I have an MBA, I have an MBA, but I still sew. So I just want to support what you are saying, that if you are creative, your ideas are the solution to someone's problem.
Yes. Yes.
The long and short about entrepreneurship is, look at the problem around you. What problem do you want to solve?
Solve. Hmm.
And solve the problem.
Yep.
People will come to you. I used to tell my women in CWF back home, I say, you know what? Just this bitter leaf, you know what we use? We call it bitter leaf to do
Yes.
dole.
Hmm.
I used to tell them, I say, many people love to eat dole, but they don't have the time to
Then to
prepare the
wash
bitter
it.
leaf. If
Yes.
you just cut it, wash it, package it, and every Thursday when you are coming for the group meeting, bring it. Just
Serve.
let sisters, those who are working, know that I have brought some bitter leaf. Do you know what? The next week, a lady brought it. The next week, a lady started doing achu. You know
Hmm.
achu? She would just do it
Yes.
and tie
Yes.
in leaves,
Yes.
200 a bundle. And people fought to buy those things. People now started giving the command, oh, I have a party next week. I want to come dollar. Could you bring me dollar for $500? And that is how it starts. Don't wait for a big entrepreneurial idea. Start small where you are,
Yes.
then grow big. So thank you so much, my friend. If you are watching, we are all travel advisors. Judith and I also work in the African context, and I'm also specialized in educational travels. I organize retreats for people. I organize trips to the Holy Land. I'm actually planning a trip for early next year for people who want to visit the Holy Land. So I'm working on all of those. And we are equally financial counselors. If you have something, we can offer you 30 minutes slot to talk with you and get you to walk alongside us to be able to identify your purpose. We love you so much. We don't want to keep you for so long. We want to be respectful for your time. And we are so appreciative that you took time to follow us. Please like, share, send us questions. Even if we
Yes.
cannot answer, I always do read the questions and we can answer in the next episode. And we always come up every Sunday from 12 p.m. Pacific time, and it's 8 p.m. West African time. And I'm glad that some of the people that are watching from Africa. So, my friend, it was a pleasure to have you on this platform. And I do hope you will come again. If you have one last word for our audience, you could.
Uh, Absolutely. Anita, I just wanted to tell you, thank you for giving me the opportunity. The pleasure was equally mine. And anything I can do to help the followers, your followers, my followers, anything that would you would require us to do to help you. As Anita mentioned, even if we don't have the answers, because no one has all the answers to anything, not even in the areas that they focus in, we will make sure we reach out to the required resources and get those answers for you. And the other thing I'd like to mention is the journey is what's important. Enjoy the journey, because as you do these things every day, this is your life. This is not someone else's life. So you have to make sure you're doing things that you love. Enjoy the journey, because if you're looking for a destination, there's really none. The only destination you're sure of, as I heard in my previous our boss, Anita, our boss's chat with Jared yesterday, the
Yes.
two guarantees in life, death. Actually, no, the order is actually, it doesn't even matter. Death and taxes. Those are the two things for sure that you will have to take care of in life. So everything else, enjoy it, love it. Live every day like it was going to be your last, but put in your work, put in your passion. Don't be afraid to fail, because I can tell you, disappointments are nothing but opportunities for you to see how to do it better the next time.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. And thank you. I just put I put my website on the comment box. If you want to check out what I do, you can look at my website and then you can contact me from my website. Judith's website is in the process. She's building her website, but you can also contact her through her Facebook page. You can put it on this comment. You can contact her through me. If you want to get to her, just let me know and I'll link the two of you. So my friend,
Absolutely.
I said how people live their lives in is as a result of the stories they believe. So what are you believing? Have a blessed day and we love you. Again, it has been your friend Rene Anita, and the program is My Voice, Your Voice, which is a platform for authentic conversation. Thank you so much.
Thank you.